Are you ready for an inspiring story of resilience? Meet James, a man who lost everything but found the strength to rise again, becoming a successful entrepreneur. In this video, you'll discover how he turned adversity into opportunity and became a true example of perseverance and courage. Don't miss this emotional story that shows that with determination, a fresh start is always possible. Click play and let yourself be inspired by this message of hope. James was a man in his 30s, and life hadn't always been easy for him. After a series of tragic events, he found himself homeless, jobless, and without support, living on the streets of a big city. Despite the hardships, he tried to maintain some dignity and hope, but each day, it seemed more difficult to imagine a different future. His life had once been very different. James had grown up in a loving family, and as a young man, he dreamed of starting his own business. He had secured a good job and worked hard, determined to build something for himself. But over time, life presented him with unexpected challenges: the loss of a loved one, the end of an important relationship, and finally, the loss of his job. One event led to another, and he ended up with no resources, no prospects, and eventually, no home. James's routine on the streets was exhausting. He had to face the cold, insecurity, and loneliness. His clothes, once well kept, were now worn, and he could hardly remember the last time he slept in a comfortable bed. He avoided thinking too much about the past because memories only made his current reality even more painful. With every corner he turned, every indifferent glance he received, he felt further from the man he used to be. Some days he received small help from strangers, a bit of change here, a meal there. But each day he felt more vulnerable and increasingly isolated. In his walks through the streets, he saw shops and offices that reminded him of his old dreams. The contrast between what he had once hoped for and his current reality left him discouraged, yet he still held onto a small hope that something could change. One night, while trying to find a place to sleep on the streets, James found himself reflecting on the life he was living. The discomfort, the cold, and the emotional exhaustion led him to question whether there was any meaning in continuing like that. For the first time, he felt the weight of despair, realizing that the emptiness he felt was as deep as the loneliness of the streets around him. It was then that James discovered a community shelter, a simple but welcoming place where he could get a hot shower and a meal. There, he met people who, like him, were also struggling to survive difficult situations. Among these people was a volunteer named David, who had a compassionate look and a direct but empathetic approach. David noticed that James was at a critical point in his life and offered him an unexpected opportunity. David invited James to join a social reintegration and job training program for people seeking to rebuild their lives. The program included workshops on professional skills and emotional support, allowing participants to develop new perspectives and believe in their own abilities again. James listened carefully but hesitated to accept. Part of him didn't believe he deserved this chance and was afraid of failing once again. However, David was persistent. He shared stories of other people who had also faced dark moments but managed to turn their lives around. David's words planted a seed in James, something he hadn't felt in a long time, a genuine hope that he could change his situation. After a long conversation, and despite his fears, James decided he would give the program a try. He knew he had little to lose but perhaps everything to gain. In the first days of the program, James felt out of place. He was in a learning environment with others who carried their own stories of pain and resilience. Adjusting was difficult, but he persisted. The initial classes focused on basic entrepreneurship skills, something James had once dreamed of applying in the past. As the lessons continued, he found himself increasingly engaged and determined. The program also included personal development sessions, where James was encouraged to reflect on his experiences and the traumas that had led him to the streets. These sessions were challenging but transformative. He began to view his mistakes and failures differently, understanding that no matter how difficult his journey had been, it could still be redirected. During these sessions, he remembered who he was before everything fell apart and realized there were still parts of himself that could be rebuilt. Gradually, the shame he felt about his situation was replaced by a renewed pride. Every small achievement, like completing an activity or receiving positive feedback from the instructors, was a personal victory. However, the fear of failure still loomed over him like a shadow. Despite this, James continued, one step at a time, motivated by the desire to regain his dignity and reconnect with his dream of becoming self-sufficient. Among the people James met in the program, some became friends and allies, creating a supportive environment. They shared stories and encouraged each other, reinforcing the idea that no one had to face challenges alone. This support became essential for James, who started to realize that his past didn't have to define his future. As time went on, he felt more a part of something bigger. For the first time, he could visualize a different future, distant but achievable. He knew the road ahead would be long and require much more work, but finally, he had a direction. With the growth of his small business, an unexpected opportunity arose. A local investor became interested in the delivery service that James had started. The investor, an experienced businessman named Thomas, saw potential in the company and offered James a chance to expand the service to other parts of the city. The proposal included initial financing and support for structuring the expansion, but it required James to take on a significant financial commitment. Faced with this opportunity, James found himself in a dilemma. He was excited by the prospect of taking the business to the next level, but the risks involved made him hesitant. After everything he had been through, he feared that a possible failure could undo the progress he had worked so hard to achieve. He knew this was the decisive moment, and the choice he made would determine the next steps of his journey. Seeking guidance, James decided to talk to his mentor, the coach who had helped him deal with emotional challenges throughout the program. The mentor reminded him of all the steps he had already overcome and encouraged him to trust his abilities. "You've come this far, James, because you knew how to turn adversity into strength," said the mentor. "Expansion is just another step on this journey. Trust in who you've become." These words brought him the clarity he needed. Deep down, James knew that his fear was understandable, but he couldn't allow it to paralyze him. Thomas's proposal was a unique opportunity, and he decided to take the risk, trusting that hard work and dedication would see him through. With renewed courage, James accepted the investment and signed the contract, marking the beginning of a new phase for his business and for himself. After the business expansion, James experienced success on a scale he had never imagined. With Thomas's support and his dedicated efforts, his delivery service quickly became known for its efficiency and personalized service, gaining new customers in different parts of the city. He began employing other people who, like him, had faced difficult challenges, creating a united and committed team. This success brought James not only financial stability but also a profound sense of personal accomplishment. He felt that he had finally found his place and transformed his life in a meaningful way. The past no longer weighed on him, and he now saw himself as someone who had overcome adversity, ready to give back what life had taught him. With his business established, James dedicated time to reconnecting with the community, sharing his journey in lectures and local gatherings. His message was simple but powerful. Circumstances don't have to define who you are. There's always a chance to start over, and change begins when you accept help and believe in your own potential. Inspired by his own journey, James made his business and life an example of perseverance, reminding everyone that even in the darkest moments, rebirth is possible. With a heart at peace and filled with gratitude, he was determined to help others find their way, spreading the message that no one is alone in their struggle and that a fresh start is always within reach for those who choose to take the first step. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Your support helps spread this message of resilience and hope to more people. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Together, let's inspire others to believe that a fresh start is always possible.